Hello everybody! Welcome to another night of some fantastic Overwatch. We have the conclusion of the CCO Winner Showcase with a finals matchup between Tryhardts and Defeato coming at you this evening. I am Bullskunk, joined in the booth here by Ocean. Looking forward to this matchup tonight. What are your thoughts coming in here?
I'm really excited. You know, we got Defeato and Apollo yesterday. That was an absolute sizzler of a match. Tryhardts also took down C4 Overwatch yesterday 3-0.
As such, we will be starting off on Oasis here. Opening up on Control. You can see through the map pool on the left-hand side of your screen. We will then go to Hanamura, Kings Row. Continue down with Eichenwald being our tiebreaker here in our best of 7. So a little bit of a different map pool as we're coming into the CCO finals. Defeato, actually both teams coming in undefeated as far as matches are concerned. Defeato only dropping one map here so far in the entire tournament. Tryhardts, I believe, have dropped 3 in all, coming into playoffs with a 7-win map differential. You think that Tryhardts going to have the edge on our more attack and defense style maps once we get into Hanamura, Kings Row? You think they're going to have the edge there? Is that correct?
Yeah, I feel like Defeato tend to struggle on these more enclosed and sort of, box-type maps where you don't have too much space. I think that's where Defeato struggles, so I think that's where Tryhardts will get their edge.
Do you think Danny might have a bit of an edge here on Control as the doors are open and our finals match has begun here on Oasis? Danny Defeato showing us a little Reinhardt Zarya. They're going to put Schmido onto that Pharah with Nick on the McCree. Both teams just head right into the middle, not wasting any time, going shield to shield. Good Maywall coming up, trying to divide off the front line, and Danny Defeato. Tryhardts able to come up with a pick, but they lose Mooselips in the process, so they lose their main tank, and the res coming through onto that Moira. Danny Defeato with a one-man advantage here in our opening engagement. Good rock coming through onto that Mercy from the flank. That Sigma trying to come around, and then a Maywall trying to divide off the front line. Looks like so far Tryhardts in control of the positioning, but Danny Defeato staying alive. For the meantime, I spoke too soon. Curse comes up with a good kill onto the Mercy. And that's not only a big chunk of healing, but the res gone. That leaves Major Noah out in no man's land. Johan charging into his death, and Tryhardts winning first engagement, coming up with first capture percentage here on Oasis.
And looked like a great fight start for the side of Danny Defeato. They actually managed to get the main tank on the side of Tryhardts. Mooselips going down. And they also got the res on this ZT. However, the just sheer DPS part of Slays managed to change that fight around, getting a nice kill on the Schmido. This time it's rotated around. Schmido gets the kill on the Slays.
And Nick is going to go ahead and drop a Deadeye on the back of that. Blizzard comes out from the other side, and Nick just barely gets the trigger pulled before he gets frozen by said Blizzard coming out from Beerus. Schmido went ahead and dropped a barrage on top, found 2, solidified this point, giving Danny Defeato an opportunity to retake here. They still got to deal with this Lucio. He has been dispatched of. They're going to get this thing flipped over. 41% on the board for Tryhardts.
Yeah, the concerning thing now for Tryhardts is Schmido has got full sightlines on this Pharah. We've seen how dangerous this was yesterday. Speak of the devil, Slice goes down. We saw how dangerous this was yesterday on Ilios Lighthouse when they were playing against Apollo yesterday in the semi-finals. And here we're seeing again, Schmido has massive sightlines on this Pharah.
Yeah, doing absolute work. We'll see if Slay's able to answer back. I mean, he lost the duel that time, but he seems to be the only answer that Tryhardts has. Now, they do have that Deadeye. Griddick Flux coming out directly on the side of Tryhardts as they're looking to come back in. Coalescence countering back from Danny Defeato, trying to keep that team topped off, but Slay's found the pick onto Burr. And once again, the Mercy falls early, but Curse goes down. Big Graviton Surge coming out. Nice defensive wall, try to shield off the team. 5v5 here on the objective. Supercharger coming out from Tryhardts, trying to tip the balance in their favor. But it's Nick drawing blood, getting that Lucio. And that's going to be a big chunk of their strategy here sent back. Another great barrage from Schmido sealed the deal. And Danny Defeato holding on here. 55-41 on the percentage. Both teams with just one ultimate on the board here.
Yeah, they're going to make the switch over to this Ryan Zarya. They think they can match Danny Defeato in that composition. Beerus is almost up to that key ultimate that May Blizzard. That's going to have to be their win condition. Defeato don't have much to answer back unless Nick can get back and get that Deadeye off. Let's see how they respond.
Well, they are taking a very conservative approach as they're backing up. They're going to go and drop Valk. That's going to prompt an Amp Matrix coming out from the other side. Mooselip's trying to charge it, but it's countered back by Johan. Both of them fall to the ground, and we're going to get both Valk and Coalescence coming out, but XTL goes down just as the Coalescence emerges, but Nick answers right back with a massive Deadeye, finding 3. A desperation charge coming in from Moose Lips. Is it going to be enough? No, he is by himself on this point and just running for his life. It's going to be a reset coming out of Tryhardts here as we go into overtime. Can they get back in touch? Did he stall enough? No. Danny Defeato will take our first round here on Oasis.
Interesting to note that this Tryhardts still had both their DPS ultimates online. They didn't use that as Slice of Beerus are going to regret not using their ultimates there.
Yeah, and what a great play coming out of Nick, able to turn the tides there. Found that just perfect angle on the far left side, read the fight, kind of got away from the front line, took just a slight off angle, just enough to weave in there. It was also well timed around the Zarya bubbles. Big play coming out of Nick. With that, he is swapping over to the Hanzo here as we're coming onto Gardens.
Fly's also making that swap.
Indeed. And we are getting the Ryan Zarya out of Danny Defeato. Tryhardts opting for the double shield Orisa Sigma coming in here. And Beerus opening things up, finding that big important pick, taking Shimido out of the sky. They are going to get the res there. Can't help but think that that's a big moral victory, though, and they're going to take him right back down. Shimido doesn't stay flying for long. Combined effort of Beerus and Ataxia, they managed to get that kill. Beerus now dueling with Nick in the backline. As Tryhardts have the advantage, and they're trying to push forward. They turn their attention onto Johan, and Johan goes down. Nick falls to an arrow from Slays as well, and once again, Tryhardts going to come up with the first engagement victory and get the percentage started in their favor.
Switching Beerus over to the McCree looks really good for Tryhardts. He was consistently hitting shots, especially on the Shimido. He eliminated Shmi early, which eliminates a lot of Danny Defeato's damage, and the tanks never really got any opportunity to engage because of how clustered this composition is on Tryhardts. Running that double shield, it's really difficult for the DPS to get angles and mid-tracks, no, but to even get charged up on that Zarya for the tanks to engage. Let's see if Defeato could respond a little bit differently heading into this next fight.
They use a lot of cooldowns early to try to aggress on the point, buy themselves some space here on the back. We're getting Ant Matrix on the other side to try to deny it, and Beerus comes up with a good Deadeye from the high ground and takes the pharmacy down. Johan goes right behind him with that. They're falling like dominoes, and Tryhardts holding on to the point strong here. That DPS duo of Slays and Beerus coming up big there in that engagement.
Yeah, again, DPS from Tryhardts are a little bit more comfortable now. They made the swap. Beerus not playing that mech. He looked a little bit weak on that despite having a really nice mech wall on point A city center. But he looks a little uncomfortable. Didn't get that blizzard off, but now Slide's on the hold. So here comes that Dragon Strike with the supercharged combination. They don't get any value out of that. Let's see if Defeato can capitalize.
They managed to divide the team off slightly, but the healer's able to get back in. And like you said, no value coming up. They're going to try to drop a supercharger as well to stave off the aggression as long as they can. And Beerus opening things up once again as he finds the kill onto his counterpart. That res is coming through, but that means their attention is now turned on to Nick. And the Hanzo is sent back to spawn. He gets a little aggressive, though, and runs right into the line of sight of Shimido. We had an Earthshatter coming out from Johan on the back line, but the rest of his team was still up by Mega trying to deal with the aggression. That left Johan on an island by himself. He goes down, Burr goes down. We're getting a Graviton Surge out of Defeato. Try to answer back. Here come the Dragons on top of it. The Orisa whittled down super low. The Mercy goes down. And the Grav Dragons may have done it. Dragons come out from the other side. And Slay's trying to counterpunch back here. He combined to the taxi to pick up 2 kills. Danny Defeato not quite able to get on top here. Overtime Wick is a burn, and Johannes made it back into the battle, but Slays with an excellent set of Storm Arrows finds the head of Nick, turns around and gets a nice shot onto Burr, taking the 2-on-1 and winning that victory. Johan has no life left, trying to come in. The Zarya throwing a late bubble in, trying to keep his man alive, but Curse is going to drop that Gravitic Flux in, take out one, take out the other. Slays cleaning up from there, and Tryhardts holding on and tie up our match here on Oasis.
Yeah, we are really seeing the power here of that double shield composition, especially when you win that first fight. You're not having to walk into the opposition. You're kind of just sat there, bunkered up, set up, ready. And now we're tied here in Oasis.
Oh, and I think if Danny had just had a little bit more patience, if Johan in particular just had a little bit more patience while they dealt with Beerus in the backline first, and then as a whole turned their attention onto the charge, they may have had more success, but they looked just slightly out of sync. Johan charging in while the rest of his team was still dealing with the threat in the backline. But now we're on to University. One round to see who's going to open us up with the 1-0 lead here in our finals match. We are still getting Ryan Zarya outside Danny Defeato and the Orisa Sigma composition coming out of Tryhardts. And it's Beerus once again opening things up on this McCree. He's taking the off angle around towards Mini. Now he's got the back of Johan in his sights. He did eat an arrow, but Shimido's going to go down. Nice flashbang, finds both supports, just not quite able to finish him off. But you can tell the pressure is coming in from Tryhardts. Slay's going to finish off the Symmetra. Burr answers right back with a nice double K. And in the midst of this, Danny Defeato has gotten the point. Now, will they have
Yeah,
the
they're-
sustain to hold on? The res coming back onto the main tank. The Orisa is back in this battle, but so far, Danny Defeato have gotten their heels planted here. They're not giving it up without a fight. Sigma trying to come in and get some aggression in. Does find the kill on to Schmido in the end, and they're slowly whittling away at the reinforcements of Danny Defeato. They're going to throw an Ant Matrix down. And then Barris, once again, showing up, a big Deadeye coming through, finds bow support. There are no more healers left standing on the side of Danny. The tank's doing their best to survive as long as they can, but they're not going to last long here. A late Graviton Surge that I think they're going to want back. In the end, they got 38% on the board. Nay? They still have Lucio and Moira trying to stall this thing out for as long as possible. Get as much of that percentage built up as they can here. Good stalls coming through. That Lucio just bouncing around like a madman. The Mexican Jumbo Bean,
coming back here.
they're not able to pin him down. Slays does finally get that kill, but it does give time for that tank to come back. You're absolutely right. But Slays just opening things up. He turns his attention onto that Symmetra. And the big Doomfist coming through. Going to go ahead and drop that Meteor Strike down. Johan caught in the corner. Tryhardts eventually able to get this thing flipped over. Not before Danny gets 59% on the board.
Not only did they get the point switched over Bull Scout, they also get the Graviton Surge, the Dragon Strike, and the Sim Wall out of the side of Danny Defeato. Ultimate gone on their side. However, Danny Defeato will also be quite happy with themselves. They got a lot of percentage, and also we got the Gravitic Flux out of Tryhardts. Here comes the engagement. And Brutality Build's gonna help them out with that huge shatter from Yuan. Beerus goes down.
Yeah, and there's Nick in the backline just wreaking havoc on this Reaper with a good swap. Slay's going to take out Schmido, but they're going to trade out as both of the DPS on the side of Tryhardts drop to these shotguns. And now Nick just going in the backline, just decimating the tanks from behind. They surround them, and they take them down. Danny Defeato getting this thing flipped right back over.
It's interesting to see how Johan managed to get that huge Earth Shatter ult, especially with how difficult it must be, especially when Slays and Beerus are playing McCree and Doomfist, and you have the double shield composition. It seems so free. The Immortality Field was down, but it wasn't able to help everyone. And Defeato just won the fight from there with Nick applying pressure to that backline.
Beerus is now making the swap over to the far to try to counter this Reaper. Another Ant Matrix coming out here from Ataxia as they look to push in, and Slays is going to find first kill, but we're getting a response back from the Graviton Surge. Lamp did come out, but it gets decimated, and the Dragons come out immediately after. Combined with the Coalescence, they find 3 kills with that. Danny Defeato with a massive advantage on the objective at 99% on the board. Get the 2 kills on the DPS, and that is going to do it. Danny Defeato taking a 1-0 lead here with the map victory on Oasis.
It seems like Tryhardts, they couldn't really find the rhythm, especially in those early fights, apart from on Gardens, and of course, City Center. But that first fight in that last Oasis University, they just really struggled once them Symmetra turrets were set up. Danny Defeato, when they were set up with the Pharaoh or Symmetra, they looked really powerful. Or even when Nick was in the backline on Reaper, once they get those DPS set up, that's when Tryhardts started to struggle. When it was more of a 50-50 engagement, both DPS having the space, Tryhardts looked pretty good. So maybe that's what they should look to do in our next map.
We are headed into Map 2 of our CCO Winter Showcase Finals. This match between Tryhardts and Danny Defeato determine who is going to walk away as champion of our CCO Winter Showcase. But more so, I think it's one of the most visually striking maps.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a beautiful, beautiful, stunning map. You know what else would be beautiful and stunning? If we actually see that dive composition coming out of Danny Defeato on that offense.
That would be absolutely beautiful is the perfect word for it. We'll see if they decide to stick with that. Tryhardts on the defense showing us a little Reinhardt Zarya here. Junkrat and Ash put the hurt down. We got Mercy and Baptiste keep the team alive. And with the 13 seconds on the clock, nope, looks like they are adjusting their lineup there on the side of Danny Defeato.
No, it's definitely Zarya Diva. Trust.
It's totally Zarya Diva. That's what they're bringing.
5, 4,
Damn.
3, 2, 1.
Gates are open. Let's get map 2 started. Danny Defeato coming out on the offense with the Reinhardt Zarya, with Nick back on that Reaper Schmido on the Hanzo. Trying to get up close and personal. Go ahead, go shield to shield, and Beerus coming up with a clever trap, finds Schmido. They do get the res onto that. But drawing first blood and sending a message here early. The defense of Tryhardts. Now you got Schmiedo working up into that window. See if he can find a shot onto the backline. Perhaps try to open things up here. Oh, but he takes a lot of damage. He's got to as low as 4 health there. With the lamp out and an early amplification matrix. Defeato trying to push in here. No more lamp available on the side of Tryhardts as they're kind of split in half. You have the Junkrat on the back of the objective and then the tank on the front line here. Reinhardt over towards the mini. They're going to try to charge back in, rotate around towards the back side. Reaper back there to meet him, and Major Nova cleaning up the stragglers on point, taking advantage of this confusion on the objective. But Cursed wins the Reinhardt battle, and Beers comes back with a big kill, and Slaves picks up 2. Investing the Bob into it. Tryhardts manages to hold on.
Wow. Look at the DPS ult charges on the side of Tryhardts compared to the ones on Defeato. Nick's gonna make the swap over to the Genji. I think that's an adaptation that they need to make. Maybe not to the Genji, but to any sort of DPS swap. It seems to be necessary. Nova looked really good in that first fight. He aggressed on the Lancelot, got a kill early for Defeato, but it wasn't enough. Cursed, Beerus, and Slice single-handedly, those 3 decided to hold the point. Both came in and did something. Here comes the application matrix and the Rips higher. Tryhardts wants to engage early. Beerus goes down, courtesy of Birds. The target to get anything it will, it gets 2.
They are going to get the res back onto the Reinhardt, so we will be to 5v5 here as Danny's trying to push in. Both teams missing a DPS player. They're going to go ahead and use Bowl early. Ant Matrix coming out on the side of Danny Defeato as they try to push through this main choke. Once again, they have the members of Tryhardts back on the right side. Curse tried to throw down an Earth Shatter, and it got blocked. Hit nothing but the shields of Johan. He was ready for it, but Mooselip's coming in with a big pick onto that Baptiste. They're going to throw a Graviton Surgeon as well. Graviton Surge coming out from both sides. Dragons from Danny Defeato to couple with it, though, and they have the better combo coming up with a big 3 kills. They're going to turn their attention onto a juiced-up Mooselips. They do lose their Mercy in the process, and they have to deal with this Junkrat, but it does not take them long. And with a $1:30 on the clock, Danny Defeato finally finding an answer to point A here.
Yeah, they didn't really have anything to respond to that Graviton Surge Dragon Strike combo except maybe the Immortality field. They didn't have it on the cooldown available to them. They were close to that sound barrier. Who knows what would have happened if they had that sound barrier up. However, they do have the Bob online here to try and prevent the snowball from the side of Defeato. Beerus also going to make the swap over to the Sombra. Wonder if he's going to try and put a little bit of pressure on Major X Nova, who's been looking really good on the Zarya this map.
Well, Danny Defeato coming back with an Earth Shatter. They're one ultimate online. They'll have a Blade online not too far behind that. That Shatter's going to go ahead and come out. It finds 4, but a nice counter charge comes out. Here comes Nick with the Blade trying to take advantage of that Earth Shatter. And the Shimano brothers coming through with 2 kills, but Bob comes out on the other side, and Slays picks up a couple of kills of his own. Shimano does answer back, taking out the Zarya, and that's a big chunk of damage missing. Turns attention onto that Sombra. As we have the Reinhardts throw themselves down to the side. I believe that was Curse just trying to take Johan off the battlefield there. Just removing that shield, trying to give his team room to work on the objective. We are getting Dragons coming out from Shmiedo as they look to counter back, and Shmiedo finds kills onto both DPS. We are getting an Ant Matrix on the other side, but Niche is answering back, takes out that Baptiste. And with the res onto Johan, Danny Defeato looking strong here. We did get an Earth Shatter coming out from Curses. They're desperately trying to come back and stall for as long as possible, but he does not last long in the objectives. Slays is back on this Doomfist. This Doomfist is going to be one that can turn this thing around if he can find a couple picks. We are getting an EMP out as well, but despite the EMP, Danny Defeato still finds the kills and comes up with that second point. 2:55 left in the time bank.
Defeato's DPS were incredibly good at being stabilized during that fight. They made sure they were focusing the correct targets and looks like we're seeing Shmiedo on the far again on this defense. He's gonna have a little bit more space, and we saw when Shmiedo has space on this far that a lot of teams struggle against it. Apollo struggled against it yesterday, and in that first map, even Tryhardts were struggling against it. Let's see if it's gonna have an impact again.
Well, they're showing us Ryan Zarya once again as well. They are bringing an Ashe to accompany that Pharah. So far, yep, the offense in Tryhardts starting us off with some double shield coming back to the Orisa Sigma composition. They do have that Hanzo. We'll see if it's enough to counter this Pharah, if they're going to have to make more switches. And then, of course, we do have the Symmetra. So we'll be looking for how they use their teleporter, how they choose to aggress onto this objective. Looks like they're going to start off at the far right side, going around by Van. Trying to work that double shield in, get that sim room to get the teleporter onto the objective. They're going to do just that. Does the team make it through? Looks like the team does make it through, and they throw a lamp out to solidify their place on this objective. Johan trying to go in, turns his attention into the corner to try to pressure down the front line, but there's too much there, and he's forced back into the safety of his healers. Meanwhile, on the outside, Nova's got a charged up Zarya trying to put some damage back into that front line. So far, neither team willing to crack. Johan dives in and overextends ever so slightly, giving Tryhardts just enough time to burn him down. With him down, Slays is just having a day at the shooting range here. Comes up with 3 big picks, including the pharmacy, and a very quick point A coming through for Tryhardts.
Yeah, they do have the barrage online for Defeato again. We talked about how they had the bomb online, however, that wasn't enough for Tryhardts in that defense. Is the barrage going to be enough this time?
They have both their support ultimates that are coming back in, trying to snowball this thing into a quick 2 objective. Great shot coming out. Slays picks off the Mercy, but the barrage comes out from the other side and finds 2 as well. Slays able to take Schmido out of the sky before he can finish that ultimate. But Nova down there to take care of our Archer. And after a big back and forth here on the objective, the tank line not able to stand up to that of Danny Defeato's. And Danny Defeato coming up big on the defense and holding on to survive for another engagement.
Yeah, back to what happened on point A. Fantastic teleporter strat coming out of Beerus and Tryhardts, getting onto the point, and they had the symmetric turrets at any gateway that Johan wanted to come in, so Johan was never, ever, ever able to engage on to any of the members of Tryhardts. It was really on Shui and Nick to find off angles to hit the Tryhardts members that weren't playing the natural cover on the point to try and get those kills, but they were unable to do so. Here comes the Graviton Touch from Major X Nova, but is matched by a Storm Barrier.
Yeah, Johan goes down, and trying to follow up on that, they do get the resonate. We're back in a 6v6, and Slays turns his attention to the skies, finds Nick, finds Burr with some excellent shots. The arrow's landing true, turns his attention to the Pharah, and the Pharah goes down, but not before taking out Beerus, so they're minus a DPS of their own, but a massive combo in the Gravitic Flux Dragons that finds the all-important tank line and Johan and Nova, and that's going to open this thing wide here for Tryhardts. I missed it. What did you see?
Burr got stunned out of the Valkyrie. He used the in-spawn to try and touch that point as quick as possible. Gets hit by the Sigma rocket accretion, and he cannot touch the point to help Danny Defeato live another day.
I missed that. Great eyes, Ocean, picking that up. What a heads-up play coming out of Cursed. And they do have
to see Beerus on the McCree this time.
Indeed. I'm guessing that's perhaps to counter a Pharah, or just to make sure they have eyes in the sky. They are bringing us that.
Wasn't running the Pharah this time.
At least not yet. Yeah, I mean, just kind of a preparation thing, I suppose. And we are seeing the double shield composition back here on the defense, as opposed to the Rein Zarya, which they initially brought. They found a little bit more success, I think, with the Orisa Sigma. So they're going directly back to that. We'll see if Johan and company on the side of Danny Defeato can get their Reaper in close enough to do the damage needed. Doors are open. Extra innings have begun here on map 2. Danny Defeato looking to extend to a 2-0 lead here in our finals matchup. Trying to poke and prod around the door. Zarya already at the 75 charge, putting a world of damage coming through that choke. Is it going to be enough to get through this double shield? The alternating shields coming out from the side of the defense. Tryhard doing a great job with that management so far, not letting anything really through. Nobody able to draw first blood just yet. Danny Defeato sees an opportunity. Their cooldowns are ready, and they're going to try to aggress onto the objective. They try to push in. Johan taking a lot of damage, but his healer's there to keep him topped off, and an early Ant Matrix comes out. Immortality Field there on the side of Tryhardts, but he gets immediately taken down. That Ant Matrix is still going. Nova in there with all of that charge, putting a hurt down. Then Nick comes through on the Reaper, finding himself 2. Make that 3 kills. And Danny Defeato, the slow and steady, methodical pace working for him as they push in and pick up point A. They're going to have 3 points on the board here.
Yeah, really good for Defeato once they got the pick on the Slates. But what really ruined that defense for Tryhardts is the split rotation. Moonslips went for the main door back onto point, and the rest of the team rotated around the outside of the point to re-enter the contest. And he got picked off and punished for that by the rest of Defeato. Then Nick came in with the free kill. We saw a little bit of tactical crouching as well. Let's see if Tryhardts can respond.
Well, Danny trying to aggress through the stairwell on the far right side. Early Immortality Field's coming out of both sides, and then the Grav Dragons coming out from Danny Defeato. And that's going to find 3 with good charge, finds 4, 5 kills, racking up. That's going to be a team kill right there, and they are on the objective. They've got 1 tick. They've got 2. Is there enough in the respawn? Can Tryhardts get back to touch? No! A blazing fast assault time. What a performance from Danny Defeato here on their attack round. They've got 4 points on the board and time to spare. They're going on the defense, hoping it's going to be enough here. Putting Schmiedo back
Switch Beerus back onto the McCree here. So they're going to expect Schmiedo on the far here, and they're going to try and counteract that.
Well, they would be correct, as we do have Schmiedo out here in the airs. We're actually getting the double spam composition on the defense to accompany the Ryan Zarya on the ground here. Of course, they will have the Mercy in the sky, keeping that Pharah alive. Baptiste down low with his Immortality Fields on the side of the offense. We are seeing double shield once again. Like I said, Beerus on the McCree, Slays on the Hanzo. We'll see if the two can keep the skies clean, and it looks like they're going to have a good start in that endeavor as they pick Schmiedo out of the sky early. Now that res is coming through. And it looks like they did manage to get that one off safely. Danny Defeato falling back into the objective here, finding the safety of their walls. Good halt coming out. Does not seem to find the follow-up. He does get the follow-up onto Schmiedo. Schmiedo not quite able to escape that great attack initiated by a good halt, pulling him into their LOS. And now you've got Johan and company kind of trapped in this corner, just stalling for as long as they can. Nova managed to get the pick as they come through the doorway. That big charge beam finds the head of Beerus, but Slays comes around the outside, taking that off angle, picks him off, goes into the back with a nice shot onto the Mercy, and Burr is down. Johan falls right behind. Now it is just a Junkrat left on the back of point. Tryhardts equaling the attack and coming up big as they're going to pick up a third point, and they'll have just under 4 minutes in the clock here in extra innings.
4 minutes, and it looks like they're going to have 4 ultimates during this fight to push point B of Hanamura. They looked really good. Slice getting that pick on Schmiedo early on that forces the res out of Ermigerd Burr, and then instead TLZ's 2 goes down later on, and there was no resurrection for the Baptiste online for Danny Defeato.
Well, like you say, Tryhardts coming back in here with a slew of ultimates, both DPS ultimates online. They're going to have Ant Matrix with that Sun Barrier not far behind. They're trying to poke and prod here from the high ground. Kind of dislodge Danny Defeato from the top of the stairs. They're going to throw a dragon to that, and that's going to do just that. Lamp is out, but not in time to save Schmiedo. Rez coming through, but now we're getting a tire coming out from Nick to try to respond back as the front line of Tryhardts is going to go ahead and move on to the objective. Mooselip's able to find the kill on that tire. No damage done. Beerus and Slay is coming up big as they're coming around the off angle on the side, putting the damage down, denying the value coming out of the Amp Matrix from Danny Defeato. And with a team kill coming through, Tryhardts answering right back. We are 4-4 here on Hanamura. Well, look at that time bank. 4 points on the board and still almost 3 minutes on the clock for Tryhardts.
And they still didn't even use that time barrier. They probably could have cut point beats.
Danny Defeato going back on the offense here. So we have 4 points on the board for both teams. Tryhardts with a $130 advantage in the time bank. Minute 29 to be exact. Wait, that'd be a minute. No, we talk about doing math on stream. We're going to go with a little bit under $130. Looks like we will get the Ryan Zarya once again. They're going to opt for some May Symmetra here coming down their offense for their third assault. So opted for a little bit more utility over damage. You're looking to see if they're going to teleport directly onto the objective or try to work around some back way, perhaps make a 2-step progress here. But I can imagine with only 75 seconds on the clock, they need to get onto that objective as quickly as they can. Now, Tryhardts are reading this, and they have prepared and already backed up and placed on the objective, and they have a Torbjorn here try to deny any further entrance. And so far, Danny just holding at the choke, trying to look for an opportunity. 60
That's
seconds.
Nick's staying on the Symmetra here. I think he should make a switch to the Hanzo just to break these shields.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. If they're going to make a change, they need to do it now. As it looks like they're just hanging around this front choke for way too long. All right, Bubble's online. Okay, they're going to go and try to throw up that teleport. It looks like they're trying to teleport to the high ground, but they can't get up there. It gets immediately destroyed. The May was the only member to make it through the teleporter, and she gets taken down by the turret. With just 30 seconds coming up on the clock, Danny Defeato finally trying to push in. They're going to go ahead and take the high ground, take the turret out. Now they've got to find a way to move on this objective, and the 6 members of Tryhardts bunkered into it. On the sim, they're trying to put damage in. Schmiedo's going to go ahead and swap over to a Tracer here, as they're looking for an answer for point A. What was so decisive attacks on their first 2 rounds, they look just very undecisive here in their third. So they cannot seem to find an opening, playing very conservatively. They have 6 seconds left to see if it'll pay off. Trisha runs into the back. It's taken out, trying to find the Baptiste. Molten Core coming out onto the objective. Coalescence coming out on the side of Danny Defeato. They are forced to push in with the overtime Wicca burning, but they are running into a couple of ultimates, that Deadeye being a big one. And they cannot get past this defense. 4 points is all we're going to get out of Danny Defeato. Big props to Tryhardts on that defense.
Especially their shield rotation as well. Sometimes the shield will be around the turret to keep Slice's turret healthy, and other times it was just helping out Mooselips in the front line with that Orisa shield if that was getting low in health. So really good shield rotation coming out of Cursed.
Well, we are getting Tryhardts coming out with the Orisa Sigma composition here once again. That double shield working for them. They're bringing the Symmetra as well, as they just need one tick here on this objective to tie up this match. Teleporter coming through, and Danny trying to rotate back to the objective. Keep all eyes in front. But Slay's opening things up, finds a pick onto Schmido, and Beerus finds himself a kill as well as they've worked their way around to the outside, and they're slowly starting to surround and collapse on Danny Defeato. Kills lighten up, and that is going to do it. We have a tie game, folks. Tryhardts will take Hanamura.
Beerus just managed to get that Symmetra beam charged up to the full 4K for him. Tryhardts leveling the series. We thought they might have a little bit of an advantage on this map with a little bit more enclosed room for Defeato's DPS to help off a little bit more. So it looks like Tryhardts will be taking advantage of those sort of situations. It'll be interesting to see if that continues. Next map is King's Row.
With that aside, we're headed to King's Row. We got some subs coming in. Ocean, tell me about our substitutions.
So Defeato have made 2 swaps after losing on the Hanamura or 2CP map. They made swaps. They brought in Big Max. We saw Big Max yesterday in the Apollo fixture as well. He played a couple of maps. He played Hollywood and Anubis. We saw him on Symmetra. We saw him on Sombra. I think we saw a little bit of McCree out of him as well. So we have seen a couple of heroes. He is a very flexible player. So he's coming in for Nick. And then their other substitution is the Orange Cowboy, a support player, is coming in for XTLZ. So it's going to be interesting to see how those swaps come into effect. I know Orange Cowboy tends to stick a little bit more to Lucio, so I think that's what we're going to see out of this.
We are getting Danny Defeato starting us off on the defense here. As we have switched sides, they will be in the blue jerseys here for King's Row. Looks like they are showing us a little bit of Orion Zarya to start us off. No big surprise there. Sticking with the tank duo that has served them so well here in the CCO Winter Open. Or Winter Showcase, excuse me. They're putting Big Max on that Sombra. Now, we've seen good stuff out of Big Max on the Sombra. We saw a lot of it yesterday versus Apollo. Some killer EMPs coming through, and then Schmido on that McCree.
4, 3, 2.
To counter this, Tryhardts coming out with the Orisa Sigma once again. They're going to put Beerus back onto the Symmetra coming into King's Row. Slay is taking them to the skies with the Pharah. They're going to come up through middle. Look like just go right up the gut here. Yeah, Big Max in the back line over by Mega trying to make something happen, but the members of Tryhardts have teleported all the way to the back of this objective here. They came up with 1 kill, but Beerus answering right back. Slays finds 1 as well. Schmido and Big Max trying to hold the line here, finding a kill each. And it looks like they may have done enough as they get the res onto Major Nova, and Schmido finds that pick onto the Pharah. Danny Defeato going to open up here on King's Row. Take this first victory.
I really like what Tryhardts did at the start of that fight. They wrapped around that left-hand side to make sure they didn't take any spam damage from Defeato. Obviously, maybe expecting a 4 or a Hanzo. I mean, they had the McCree to avoid spam damage from, but here they come in with another engagement. Mooselips is kind of on his own here on that left side of play. The rest of his team are on the high ground.
Yeah, he didn't make it through the teleporter, and now the rest of Tryhardts jumping down to meet Mooselips as he just slowly makes his way around Hotel here. Defeato trying to answer back now as they went ahead and throw the bubble down. Here comes the Earth Shatter, but the Immortality Field comes out just in time. What a great play, but despite the best efforts of that Baptiste, a couple kills do come through. Nevertheless, Johan managed to get a pick. I'm sorry, the Beerus managed to get a few picks, excuse me, and now it is Tryhardts pushing right back in here. Big EMP comes out from the other side. Do they have the reinforcements? Big Max is going to go down. Nova gets the pick onto the Symmetra, but drops in the process. Orange Cowboy not far behind, and Tryhardts muscling through. They're going to get point A here.
I think if you're Defeato, you want that EMP back.
Yeah.
Throwing it in late in the fight. But, I mean, Beerus, let's talk about him quickly. You know, they were just sitting around the point waiting for a couple things. It was kind of 4v4 at the time. Beerus comes around with an innovative flank, gets that Symmetra being charged up, and finds 2 to switch the fight back into the favor of Tryhardts. And they capture point A here on King's Row.
Yeah, killer play coming out of that Symmetra. Beerus going to go ahead and swap over to a May here as we go into Streets phase. Danny Defeato not able to get their feet planted on Bookstore, but I spoke too soon. They're going to throw down a Valkyrie and try and push in here as they manage to gain some ground. They got Mooselips separated from the rest of the pack, and it opened up a lot of space here for Data Defeato to get planted behind Bookstore. Oh, but an Ant Matrix comes out. Beerus finds a shot with the Icicle Supercharger there as well. With the time and a half damage, that Icicle just ate Reinhardt's lunch, sent him back to spawn with the quickness. Fortunately, res coming through, but it does mean Data Defeato's on the back foot once again. Here comes Dragon's Immortality Field there to try to keep him alive, but Nova doesn't manage to make it into the safety of that cooldown, and he goes down. Slays finds himself a big pick as well, and now Tryhardts just continually to bully forward and claim possession of all of Point B. Though they got to get somebody on that cart. That cart's still sitting way back in Bookstore.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Cowboy got staggered a little bit there, but Tryhardts used 4 ultimates, maybe even 5 in that last fight. Beerus, I think, was the only one that didn't use an ultimate. Him, of course, switching over to the main, so he didn't have any ultimate available for Tryhardts. Let's see if Defeato can use that to their advantage. They have 5 ultimates to re-engage.
They're going to open with a slam combined with a Deadeye. Holding on that Deadeye, the patience pays off as it finds 2. They're going to invest a Graviton Surge as well. That'll pick up the Sigma. The Lucio going in there to try to save his tank frame, but it's not going to be enough. The Sigma goes down, and now that Zarya getting frozen. Kid Beerus turned this tide. Slays has picked up a kill onto the Cowboy. And I believe they've lost their tank here. Okay, yeah. Here comes Johan back into the battle. Nova able to...
Would have been interesting if they threw in the Blizzard and the Beat just for fun.
Ooh.
Would have loved to see that fight.
Well, with their main tank gone, I thought for a second Beerus was going to carry this thing on his back. Johan makes it in the battle, and Nova able to clean up before the Reinhardt even gets back. Good plays coming out of that Zarya to keep his team standing here on the back of Point B. They're going to open up here with an Ant Matrix, try to hold off the aggression from Tryhardts as they're looking to push down the long street here. Johan finding a kill through that ultimate. Good fire strike onto the Baptiste, slowing down the attack even further.
That's gonna let Big Max trails up the EMP. Everybody will be able to use it. Beerus gets the kill. Speaking of Big Max's EMP,
and
he have a chance.
He was at 99. He was so close. That big play is going to give them the window they're looking for. Give them that chance that you're talking about, and they're going to push right on in. They're going to throw Blizzard down. Immortality Field's there, but it doesn't last long, and neither do the members of Danny Defeato, as they're all frozen stiff and sent back to spawn. All courtesy of Beerus and that Blizzard.
Yeah, Tryhardts had so many ultimates online. The only answer Defeato really had was that EMP. Baymax would have had to try and carry that fight on his shoulders with that one ultimate. But the heads-up play from Beerus just before the fight began, getting rid of Big Max and that EMP potential, made it so that Tryhardts had pretty much a free fight win.
I mean, Beerus absolutely showing up for his team here today. He's going to put up a good wall here, divide off that Reinhardt, but here comes the EMP, and it finds the entirety of Tryhardts. With that, Schmido has free reign over the top, and Johan just swinging for the fences here, and they manage to push the members of Tryhardts back to the entrance of Point C. Tryhardts is certainly not done yet. They've got Supercharger online. They've got Dragons and a couple of support ultimates as well. They're going to drop that Supercharger to start things off. Danny Defeato backing up around the corner to get out of the way of that LOS. It is given a lot of room to the other side, and Sigma's going to go ahead and drop that Gravitic Flux. That finds 4! What a massive Flux! 2 members immediately drop. Dragons come in as well. The Mercy was down to 1 health. It gets picked off by Ataxia. And Cursed just opening up Danny wide and exposing all of their weaknesses, sending them back to spawn, and that payload is full steam ahead into its final resting place. You got the Cowboy coming back out on the Baptiste, trying to stall, throws the Immortality Field down. Is it enough to buy time for the reinforcements to get there? Major Nova does come out and find the kill on to Slays. That's a big pick. Throws the Graviton Surge into the mix. Immortality Field is there. Earthshatter comes out. It finds 2, but the Sound Barrier comes out on the side of Tryhardts as they're looking to push in this thing. And Johan charges into a death pool back there, runs into the Hornet's Nest. Now it is 1 by 1. Danny Defeato trying to stall for as much time as possible. Barrage comes out from Schmido. That's going to pick up Beerus. And Burr and Nova managed to find a couple kills as well. And it looks like the stall is going to emerge victorious in the end. Holy cow. Schmido making a late swap of that Pharah coming through clutch for Danny Defeato, and they managed to hold on here at the end of Point C.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Tryhardts used a lot of their ultimates early in the fight to try and counteract those early ultimates from Defeato, and then the last couple ultimates that Defeato managed to build up during that last fight came to bite Tryhardts right back. However, Defeato have nothing after making switches to the stall characters, and Blizzard is almost online for Tryhardts.
Yeah, they got Johan on the monkey trying to jump into the back and just start aggressively, which is the best you can do with the composition they have, but he does not last long. Big Max throws down a pulse bomb and finds Beerus, and that's a huge pick. 99% towards Blizzard was Beerus, and now they don't have that ultimate there. They do still have 30 seconds on the clock. There's time for that May to get back, but that could stall out this assault, and it could buy time, but not if Slays answers back with 3 big kills before getting sent off the side. That is going to be a big blow here for Tryhardts as they're looking to push this thing home. 15 seconds on the clock. Ant Matrix coming out. Immortality field there. Beerus has returned with that Blizzard in hand. They're trying to combat the monkey who's trying to have in the backline. That Blizzard is going to come out onto the objective. Members of Defeato able to get out of the way. Overtime Wake is starting to burn. They do lose Orange Cowboy and Schmido. Their Lucio, their Doomfist is gone, but Johan answers back with a big Primal Rage. They knock him off the objective. Beerus just barely able to get back in touch before that Overtime Wake burns out. Major Nova swinging around, and once again they have him pushed off with a great Maywall.
Wow,
I'm speechless. I think Beerus blocked off his own team. Beerus threw up a Maywall on the end, and it kept his own team from being able to get back and touch the objective. Gasted, that was a championship performance there on the defense by Danny Defeato. That's what you like to see. That's what's going to win you this match, and they have certainly set themselves the win condition here.
Yeah, I believe it or not, this is actually the map that Danny Defeato secured their CGL MTT6 title on. So let's see if they can continue their King's Row finals phase.
We do have Danny Defeato going on the attack now, of course. Hoping that good hold's going to be enough to give them a 2-1 lead. Tryhardts on the defense here, once again with the Orisa Sigma. They're going to bring May and McCree here. As Danny Defeato looking to push around the outside of Statue. Tryhardts with a very defensive posture here. Nice Maywall comes out, divides up the Reinhardt from the rest of the team. But those healers are able to get over there with the help from the Lucio they have on their team. They speed in to help their Reinhardt out. Now he's going to charge in. Bubble comes up to keep him alive. They're trying to buy him room for the rest of the team to get on point, and it does just that. Johan sacrifices himself for it, but the rest of his team coming up with 2 big picks. And now they have a lot of room to work. Schmiko coming around the outside, but he loses the duel. Ataxia coming up with a big pick. The nice immortality field there to protect his team from the Hanzo arrows. And it does look like Danny Defeato struggling a little bit without their main tank as Johan runs back into the battle, swinging. He gets that bubble to help protect him and help buy some space for the team. And then Burr coming up with a big pick there with a nice damage orb, throwing it into the mix. He's going to throw a Coalescence into this as well to help them secure this point. They have 2 ticks already and counting. And with all this pressure coming out from Danny, we're not going to see a contest here on the side of Tryhardts.
Moose's a little bit stuck here. Is he going to get back to his team? He is. The kinetic grasp used from Curse to keep Moose's alive there as he was trying to rotate back as they were debating on whether to try and recontest point A. Midrex Nova has the Graviton search for this next fight. However, support resources are available for Defeato. Here comes the Deadeye. Beerus gets killed to Burr. It's not going to get too much value, but Tryhardt's going to hold at this archway.
Yeah, I think it just did the job positionally, forcing Danny Defeato kind of scramble, and then they get caught out. Picks coming through. Beerus able to capitalize on the bad positioning there. But Danny Defeato coming back with a couple ultimates. Good news for Tryhardts fans is they have 4 of them online of their own with that Blizzard not too far behind. Keeping an eye on Big Max here. He's up in the window. We'll see if he can get this EMP off in time to deny these 4 ultimates out of the side of Tryhardts. The front line trying to aggress in. They don't see Big Max standing right beside him. Here he comes. He's in the back line. There goes EMP. Coalescence is out as well. EMP finds 6. Oh, he does not. And Lancelot gets that beat out. What a great play. He only found 5. Nevertheless, 2 kills coming through. The one counter back from the other side. Sound barrier coming out from Danny Defeato as they're still pushing forward here. Major Nova charge to the heavens. 100 on that charge count. Good immortality field comes out. Oh, but the Grav Dragons comes through once again. Johan with a 3-man charge kill, denying Schmido of that glory. But in the end, Danny Defeato all stand glorious together here on point B as they are capping this point, putting 2 points on the board. And they'll have just under 5 minutes here, or just over 5 minutes, excuse me, to take point C.
I think you're happy with that fight if you're Tryhardts, though. You get every single ultimate under Defeato for just 2 of yours?
Yep.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, they got Supercharger already out on the board here at the beginning of point C. They're trying to make a statement early here, not even let them have this corner. And Beerus is going to come up with first blow and second as he fires icicles through this Ant Matrix. Burr had nowhere to run. And Tryhardts, I think the Supercharger Ant Matrix is the only ultimates they're going to have to use here to hold on to this first defense. Danny Defeato does
tell
tell him.
Have coalescence as well next fight.
Yeah. Yeah, Danny Defeato still has plenty of time on the clock to build up some more. They will have dragons coming up as well. You got Slays hiding up on the catwalk, just waiting above him. He's got that Deadeye line. Here comes the Deadeye. Blizzard comes out as well. Deadeye finds one. The Blizzard is going to find Johan. Johan goes down. Major Nova goes down without their tanks, without their Lucio. We're going to get a reset here on the side of Danny Defeato as they are scrambling back to spawn.
Yeah, really concerning for Danny Defeato now because they don't have any ultimates. The tanks haven't been able to build much to their ultimates. They have got Coalescent, Shatter, and of course Dragon Strike for that next fight. But Gravitic Flux and both support ults are going to be all for Tryhardts here. I think they got maximum value out of that fight where Defeato used 4 ultimates.
Well, and Bimax has made this swap over to the Reaper. I'm not sure how advisable that is. They're going to open up with Dragon's Coalescence, at least buy themselves room around this corner. And then Big Max is going to try to go in and deny the value of the Amp Matrix coming out from Tryhardts on the defense, force them out from behind that LOS of that ultimate. Slays, though, finding first blood here on this engagement as he gets the pick onto the Hanzo, and now Big Max is the lone standing DPS. Everything resting on his shoulders here to try to get the kills and push this thing around this corner. Johan moving forward, trying to buy him some space, but he gets blocked off from a nice May wall and taken down. With that, Tryhardts just storming forward as they are in full control right now on point C. And they still have good ultimates to work with. They didn't have to spend anything in that one. They spent the Amp Matrix, excuse me, but that was it.
Yeah, but they're back up to 50 on Amplification Matrix already! 3 minutes left on the clock for Defeato. It's going to be darn to Tryhardts how they can store up their ultimate to make sure they win the fights cleanly.
Yeah, they need to get good use out of the Death Blossom Graviton Surge on the side of Danny Defeato, but here comes the Gravitic Flux on the side of the defense. That found a couple there. And we're Burrow able to keep this team alive with a Sound Barrier, or with a Coalescence, both coming out on the side of Danny Defeato. They're looking to push in here. Blizzard Supercharger coming out on the side of the defense to try to stall this out, to try to counterpunch towards this aggression. But Beerus goes down from a good charge coming out of Johan there. And the main advantage here on the side of Danny Defeato, they're going to go ahead and invest a Graviton Surge. Big Max running in. The lamp is there. They kill the lamp, and the Dragons do their job. Once again, that big combo coming through. Tryhardts cannot seem to find an answer for the big wombo combo that is the Grav Dragons. And Danny Defeato pushing this thing to its final resting place. They have a 2-1 lead here in this match.
Wow, it's very shocking. Tryhardts had so many ultimates built up for the last fight, but got minimal value out of every single one of them. They're trying to beat an Amplification Matrix all at the same time. Didn't get any value. The Blizzard didn't get any freezes, I don't believe. The Flux did get a couple in the air, but there was no kills for this Graviton Surge and Dragon Strike combination from Defeato and Matrix that were wrapped up the map for Defeato, and we're back to Defeato leading.
We are headed into map 4 of our CCO Winter Showcase Finals. This one between Tryhardts and Danny Defeato. We are headed into Route 66 here for our escort map. We are getting Danny Defeato starting us off on the attack here on Route 66. Tryhardts on the defense. On the side of the defense, Tryhardts showing us that Orisa Sigma composition once again. Slays back on the Torbjorn. Beerus on the Ash. Yeah, we got our favorite dwarf hero in here on the defense. On the side of the offense, Danny showing us Ryan Zarya once again. Big Max back on the Zombra. With Schmido on the Ash as well. Good to see some Ash play here coming into this tournament. Got a lot of long range here on Route 66. We'll see how these players choose to take advantage of it. Tryhardts getting bunkered up on top of Big Earls there. They're not going to bother with the low ground here. Just try to see if they can find any picks from the high ground. We'll see if they choose to drop down here, if they're going to go to the back. No, they're going to go ahead and challenge early. Dropping off to the front of the gas station. Danny Defeato happy to oblige. They move in and just swing hammer onto Moose Lips there. Trying to find the kill onto the main tank. They'll take the kill onto Curse instead, opening up first blood, but Beerus wins the duel with the opposing Ash. Both teams had a 5v5, but Danny Defeato coming through with the res. They're back at a full 6-man strength here. Still trying to dislodge Tryhardts off the rooftop of Big Earls, but slowly and surely that payload is making its way around and getting into its final destination here on the end of point A. Tryhardts going to be forced to contest. Eventually, Curse trying to drop down. He does find that kill onto Big Max. You have the Lucio coming in to try to contest as well. As Tryhardts have their DPS set up in the back, and Danny Defeato not quite able to close that distance just yet. We're going to get a reset out of them.
And something interesting to note, the hack went early from Big Max onto Beerus, trying to make the duel, easier for Schmido. But as we're seeing, Beerus getting the better of Schmido so far in that Ash v Ashu. However, Schmido has built the bulb up, so Schmido seems to be targeting the tanks, especially on Tryhardts a little bit more, whereas Beerus is going for that Ash v Ash duel and winning it consistently. So definitely interesting to see the two strategies from these DPS duos.
Indeed, Big Mac's trying to go in early there, but got found out and was forced back out as he's trying to build up towards that ultimate. Now he's on top of the gas tank trying to force him out. They got Ataxia down really low. He does fall into the safety of his healers, but on the front line, Nova wins the duel against the counterpart Flex Tank, taking down that Sigma, and then Johan coming in, smashing hammer to skull, finds himself 3 kills with that big hammer. Schmido doing his part on the Ash, and Danny Defeato moving in and picking up this first point here on Route 66.
Yeah, Defeato look really strong here heading into that fight. They have a set plan. They use the bulb to help the tanks engage, and they do that with the Valkyrie in hand as well. And really, there was no real answer for this side of Tryhardts. They just had to try and rotate back around, but they couldn't deal with the aggression. And now Defeato are going to come storming. They've already killed Beerus and have the EMP online. Here it comes!
Yeah, EMP finds 5. And then Curse just pushed forward. He has nowhere to run. Runs right into the welcoming arms of Johan, who sends him back to spawn gladly. Supercharger coming out inside the defense to try to balance things back out here. But Schmido has already found a couple of picks as well, as he's got sights set on that top right cave entrance. Not allowing any reinforcements to come through to help out Mooselips on the ground here. And with that, Danny Defeato just claiming tons of space. Johan able to push them all the way back. Now Cart is still sitting here just... Yeah, Beerus coming back, winning that Ash duel. Just like you're talking about, he's going to go ahead and invest in that Bob as well. Good Hulk coming in to pull the members of Danny Defeato into the range of that Bob. Danny Defeato forced to slow their roll here a bit and back up. Oh, Schmido comes back and gets revenge for that kill. And now Danny Defeato kind of rotating around to the back line. Big Max goes down. So we're at a 5v5 here. Johan choosing to come back out towards Main Street. Does have that Earth Shatter online. With Schmido dropping, though, they are backing out. A little bit of a soft reset coming through here. They do have both of their tank ultimates online. They still have that Bob and 2 support ults on the side of Danny Defeato. They have the tools to push it through, but they're going into a Gravitic Flux and a couple of support ultimates on the side of Tryhardts as well.
I really, really, really like the fact that Tryhardts didn't treat their ultimates for kills. They traded it for space and allowed the rest of their team to have that space. And they were able to win a fight. However, Defeato pushing back in, using that bomb and the Graviton Surge. They do get a kill on the Beerus already. Immortality kill down. Sound Barrier provided by Lancel to try and help Tryhardts, as well as Application Matrix. Nova goes down to it. Can Tryhardts switch it around?
Yeah, they're trying to get the Sigma out of their back line right now. And if they took their attention off the front line, they lose their Baptiste. Or, excuse me, lose one of their players. Lose their Lucio, I believe it was. Now they lose Lohan on the exit. And they spend so many ultimates to do that. Danny Defeato spent a lot there to not get any ground. Curse coming up with a big Gravitic Flux to open things up early, and they survive that, but they throw both tank ultimates in on top of each other. They're not able to get much out of it. They just give room for Tryhardts to counterpunch back. Now they do still have this EMP online, but Tryhardts has a couple of ults of their own. They're going to open things up with a supercharger, but the EMP comes out, shuts down that supercharger, and with that, Danny Defeato trying to aggress forward. Now they've traded out 1 DPS on both sides, 5v5 here on the objective. Torb going in with the Molten Core on the objective, and Johan's caught right on top of it. The Mercy got whittled down super low as well. They're trying to back out and find some health, but Johan does not manage to escape the death from Cursed. They're going to go ahead and invest Bob back in, as Danny Defeato does not want to give up this objective. Bob is taken out. All the equipment goes down. And now we're at the brawl. Major Nova without his Reinhardt there is chipped down super low, but he's charged to the heaven and putting some damage down, but he cannot survive. Johan does not make it back into the battle in time to save his Zarya. Bob comes out from the defense, and Tryhardts finds that kill onto Schmido with that ultimate. Now they're trying to get a reset here. The Hulk coming through as they try to find exit kills. And they are going to find that kill onto Johan. Just 30 seconds on the clock here for Danny Defeato finding the answer to point B.
It's definitely not looking good. All they've got is the Graviton Surge, Earth Shatter, and the Sound Barrier, but ultimate to respond for Tryhardts. Defeato really looked good at the start of the last fight. 6-man EMP, but they don't follow up on it. And then the two support ultimates coming in for the side of Tryhardts, meaning that they can hold on.
And a big gravitic flux to open things up here. Zany comes back in. Sound barrier comes on the other side. Keep that team alive. But Schmido does not survive. Beerus once again coming up on top as he's on the high ground. Oh, and denies Rez with a nice shot onto the Mercy. Graviton Surge comes out, but Beerus throws a dynamite down, finding headshot after headshot. Takes out Major Nova and Johan. Beerus single-handedly putting Tryhardts on his back. Woo! What a performance coming out of this Ash. Wow. On the side of the defense, Danny Defeato bringing us the Reaper. Hanzo put the hurt down. Of course, they're going to have that Rein Zarya tank line once again. Johan and his big purple Reinhardt.
Moira as well.
They are switching to a Moira here. Interesting pick, bringing the Moira Lucio. Perhaps opted for a little bit more.
Hard.
Yeah. Well, they've got Big Max on that Reaper as well, so definitely forming a little bit more of a death ball composition here. Looks like Tryhardt's going to just go right up the gut here early. All 6 members just slow pushing this thing around the corner, see if they can find some space around this first corner. Beerus trying to go up onto that high ground. Falls back down, and it's just double snipers just sitting right there on the objective as both teams firing back and forth, trying to find an opening around the shield. See who's going to draw first blood, and it's going to be Slays doing that as he finds the all-important kill onto the Reinhardt. And without that big shield, it's going to be very difficult for Danny Defeato to survive this onslaught, and indeed they are not. Tryhardts coming through strong. The big opening here on their first attack.
Yeah, fantastic. They got a couple of chunky holds really early on from Mooslets, and now their DPS, they get a couple of early shots. Also, let Ataxia build up the Amplification Matrix. That's going to be online for that next fight. The only thing really to match it's going to be either maybe Schmado's Dragon Strike, sorry, and the Burr with the Coalescence. Let's see how this next fight goes.
Danny Defeato coming back in on that far left side from the attacker point of view. Run right into the arrows from Slays. They're trying to get the objective. Now Big Mac's circling around to the back, seeing if he can open this thing up a bit. Schmido and Slays both coming up with picks, but it is Danny Defeato losing their Reinhardt. Big Max does finally get that kill onto Slays, so no more double sniper. Both DPS gone on the side of Tryhardts. They're looking to push in here. Orisa whittled down super low, and Dragons coming out from the other side. The Dragons find both tanks on the side of Tryhardts. Big Max coming up with a good exit kill onto Ataxia, and Danny Defeato gotten their defense planted here on point A.
Beerus making the swap from the Widowmaker over to the Pharah, probably to try and put a little bit more pressure onto Big Max. Definitely interesting to see him go for the Pharah, not the McCree. We saw him look really comfortable in the McCree earlier in the series. Ataxi's going to make a switch over to the Mercy to kind of run the skies with their Pharmacy. They have got a little ultimates to use, but Graviton Surge almost online and stalking out the Slays goes down early.
Yeah, good pick coming out from Schmido to win that duel. He follows it up with another pick onto the Lucio as well. Johan storming forward with a kill onto Cursed. Now that Res did come through with an early swapped Mercy, and Slays comes back up and finds that pick, but he goes right back down as Johan gets revenge for the kill onto his friendly Hanzo. And despite the supercharger coming out from Tryhardts, Danny Defeato's defense will not be broken just yet. They are holding strong, but Tryhardts not giving up just yet. Cursed coming back in. He does have that Gravitic Flux online. And he puts his attention onto Johan, who's now trapped into the mega hallway there. Oh, but Big Mac's there to keep his tank alive. He falls to the barrage, and Slays picks up a kill as well. DPS trying to come through, and that res is going to come on to Cursed here. Reinhardt missing on the side of Danny Defeato here, and Mooslets is swapped over to a Reinhardt of his own. Big Mac tries to throw down a Death Blossom, but no luck. No value coming from that ultimate as he gets shut down by Cursed. And it is Tryhardts here at full command of point A, and with just under a minute on the clock, looking like they're going to take this thing in, we might get a recontest.
Yeah, Mason makes a switch over to the Reinhardt. Johan tries to recontest, but kind of on his own. Big Mac is going to go back to the Sombra, try and build some EMP quickly to try and let Defeato re-hold and try and get a little bit of stabilization and also momentum, which will be key for them on this last point. 3 minutes on the clock for Tryhardts. They have 4 ultimates as well, though.
And remember, they only need to push it just around the clubhouse here, and they will win this map and tie us up here in our finals. So it does have those Dragons online. They have a whole host of it's online, 4 online like you're talking about, including that big Gravitic Flux as well. Danny Defeato going to try to make an aggressive push here. They throw a Graviton Surge down. Dragons come out from the other way as well as the Gravitic Flux. The Gravitic Flux found several, and Johan does not have enough health to survive. as he goes down from the hands of Moose Lips. A little help from that Mercy. And now Tryhardts pushing forward. Nice work out of Curse. Manages to get the kill onto Burr. Big Mac's whittled down super low as he got hit by a rock in that flurry as well. They had lost Beerus, but Rez coming through. Tryhardts back at full strength. Schmiedo there trying to stall out for his team. It doesn't last long. Slade's leaning that arrow, and Tryhardts have a full head of steam coming in. Big Mac's running in from behind to try to stall things out. Wrecking Ball gets there as well. We are going to get a contest out of Danny Defeato. Is it going to be enough? Beerus throws out the barrage, finds one before getting hooked out of it and taken down. Now the tension has been turned on to Major Nova, and Earthshatter comes out from the offense. Dragons as well, and that is going to lay waste to the reinforcements coming through from Danny DeFito. And Tryhardts have done it. They will take Route 66, and we are tied up 2-2.
You have to feel that decision from Johan to try and contest point A really hurt DeFeato. It gave the side of Tryhardts a little bit more old church and actually give them a lot more space so DeFeato could only take one real fight on point B, meaning that Tryhardts had that huge advantage. And here's what happened. Moose Lips pop it off on the Reinhardt, swinging around, slides with the Dragon Strike, and then clutch out map 4, and we're tied up again, 2-2. Next map is Legion.
Welcome back, my friends. We are here with map 5 of our CCO Winter Showcase Finals. Tryhardts and Danny DeFeato all tied up 2-2 here in our 1-4 matchup. I have a substitution here on the side of Danny DeFeato. What's going on with these guys here, Ocean?
So we have Nick coming back into the lineup for Big Max, with Schmidt staying into that DPS role. So they've kind of been rotating Max and Nick across the last 2 series that we've seen them in. So Nick coming back into the roster for Lijiang Tower. Of course, another control map. We did see Nick on control yesterday and today. So maybe that's just a control thing that I'd like to run Nick on control. No changes for Tryhardts, and we're ready to go. What we're going to see out of him.
Hit the nail on the head. Look at that. Nick on the Hanzo, Schmiedo on the Pharah. They will be bringing us that Diva Zarya composition. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, we'll be Ryan Zarya with Mercy and Lucio to keep them alive. And we are seeing the double shield composition once again coming out of Tryhardts here in the blue jerseys.
On the sim as well?
Yeah, with the Beerus on the Symmetra. So we're looking for those window teleporters coming through. Try to get their feet planted first, see if they can beat DeFeato there, who do have that Lucio. Gates are open. Map 5 is underway. Who can break this stalemate? We're about to find out. Schmiedo putting some early rockets in. Nevertheless, that teleporter comes through. Right through the window they go. But the speed of Danny DeFeato has got him right on top of him. Big charge coming through from Johan. Early Immortality Field gets taken out from the sky, but Beerus finds first blood, finding the kill onto that Lucio. Schmiedo drops him. It is very low on life. Slays finds that final blow. Pieces of armor go everywhere. And it's a 2-man advantage here for Tryhardts on the objective. And DeFeato not giving up as they're still swinging away from the front door, but Curse coming up with a big pick onto Hanzo. Johan goes down, and it is going to be Tryhardts getting first capture here on Night Market.
Yeah, the danger and actual niceness of that Symmetra play is that you get onto the point quickly, kind of wall it off so that you cannot have the main tank engage on you. You saw all this on Oasis University, DeFeato used it there. We also saw it on Hanamura, where Tryhardts used it effectively as well. And it's worked every single time that we've seen it. No one's been able to touch the point when the Symmetra gets the rest of the team point first, and they're able to use the natural cover to stop Johan or Moose Lips being able to push in.
Well, they're going to drop Valkyrie on the side of Danny DeFeato here, but they're going to run into that photon barrier. The sim wall is up, and that's going to deny a lot of attack coming through. Hanzo not able to find any opening through this. They're just going to have to wait through this out. But then Johan's going to run in and throw a shatter down. Did not seem to find much. I think that one got blocked. Slays drops his Deadeye, finds a pick onto Lucio. The Mercy and the Reinhardt fall as well. Nick throws in Dragons and finds 2, but he gives his life for it in the process, and the reinforcements are just not there. Tryhardts holding on here, maintaining with 63% on the board and counting. They got Gravitic Flux, Supercharger, and Sound Barrier available here for the next fight.
So Nick's going to go over to the Reaper to try and put a little bit more pressure on the tank line of course, Tryhardts. Tryhardts have a lot of ultimates online and point advantage. Here comes the barrage. It doesn't get anything. Schmiedo taken out by Beerus. Let's see if DeFeato can try and twist it around again.
Well, Gravitic Flux and Sound Barrier coming out on the side of Tryhardts just to try and deny that from happening. And those kills coming through as Ataxia coming up with the big picks onto both of the countering supports. And with 94% on the board, we're in desperation phase here for Danny DeFeato. A late boot coming out from Lancelot, going to deny Nova from getting there and touching. I don't think there's anybody else left to touch. No, Tryhardts will take Night Market in a 1-0 lead here on Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, they just got to the point and they were set up for the rest of the round. Those symmetric turrets make it really difficult for Johan on that Reinhardt to engage. Nova never really got any charge to build up that Graviton Surge. He did get the Graviton Surge near the end, but was unable to use it. This map, however, Schmidt will have a little bit more of an open sideline on the Fora, and I think we're going to probably see Nick on the McCree unless they want to try to blow in the point a little bit more with the Reaper.
We'll see if they have any more luck here, as they are going to come out the doors with the same composition. Nick going to go ahead and just teleport onto the objective here. He's got to be careful. He's by himself, and he's found out. Slays knows he's there. Getting a little bit of a duel between the McCree and the Reaper in the backline, but the Reaper has his back to the rest of Tryhardts, and he is going to go down. With that, the rest of his team trying to push in from light side. They're coming in with a one-man disadvantage. Nova's going to drop. Johan's going to drop. No more tank line standing for Danny Defeato. Tryhardts in absolute control so far here on Lijiang Tower.
They get set up on the point again. Nick's going to make a swap over to Symmetra to maybe try and slow the tank line of course, Tryhardts down again. But, I mean, Orisa and Sigma aren't very mobile anyway, so that's not going to do too much. Maybe just get charged up that Symmetra beam on the shields. That's probably the idea. Speed's going to stay on the Fora and try and spam into this double shield composition. But as long as they can kind of keep the point and prevent Danny Defeato from engaging onto them, they're going to look pretty good.
Well, Danny teleported right on the objective, and Schmido able to get a good opening pick on the Slays. He tries to throw his barrage in, but has no luck as an Animatrix came out from the other side. 5v5 here on the objective. Both teams missing a DPS player. Photon Barrier coming out from Tryhardts. Halt coming through as they're trying to find a pick over on this left-hand side. So far, no more success. It's still at 5v5. Gravitic Flux comes out as Tryhardts looking to tip the balance into their favor. Bears comes in with a big pick onto Johan. Soundbarrier came out from that side, and they are going to get the res on Johan, but they lose Major Nova in the process. They trade out alt tanks. Nick drops on the Symmetra, and slowly but surely, Danny and Defeato are getting surrounded and sent back to spawn. Just Mercy left in mid-Valk. Not enough to hold on here. What's the answer? What's the answer for Danny? Yeah.
I have no clue. They got onto the point. They got a kill. How this Photon Barrier from Beerus, which is online again, by the way, and let this side of Tryhardts just play one side of the point, take no damage, and then they were able to get that 5-man Gravitic Flux. Even though it was covered by the Sound Barrier, the damage are already being done. They only really have the Earth Shatter. It's going to have to be huge from Johan.
Yeah, and Johan was the one to drop from that Gravitic Flux. They have got to keep him alive, pushing in here. And already, look at their health bars. Danny Field's health bars just chipped down so low. And 2 kills coming through before they can even get out of this elevator area. Curse does overextend, and Cowboy finds a pick onto Slays. We are getting Graviton Surge coming out of Danny Defeato's. The overtime wick is starting to burn. You got the Lucy on point, keeping that wick going. Soundbarrier came out to keep Tryhardts alive through that Graviton Surge. And it is Beerus making the difference here on the side of Tryhardts. Oh, he does get stunned and go down. Earthshatter came out from Johan and found Ataxia and Beerus. High Noon coming out from Slays here to try to hold this thing off, but it finds nothing but the shields of Johan. So there's just some straggling members of Danny Defeato left on here, and he's going to storm on. Slays finding 2 kills as the rest of the team teleports down. They were never quite able to find a full 6-man. Nevertheless, Schmido answers right back, not to be outdone. Finds himself 2 kills, but drops to the hands of Mooselips. Nevertheless, I think those 2 picks plus the 1 from Burr might be enough. Danny Defeato have gotten the point flipped over, and they have finally managed to stabilize.
Yeah, we've talked about how the side of Tryhardts have been able to benefit from holding the point and having that symmetric setup. Now Defeato have it set up. They've also got Honzo, Dragon Strike set up there. Maybe going to look for some early Storm Arrow damage. Try and put a little bit of Tryhardts to the pressure, but Tryhardts do have the Matrix and the Flux to try and engage here.
Oh, Tryhardts tried to teleport onto the objective. Danny Defeato lets 2 members through and then destroys the teleporter. And then all 6 members of Danny just pounce onto the only 2 that made it. Fantastic divide and conquer strategy coming out of Danny Defeato, and they immediately just shut down the aggression coming out of Tryhardts. Tryhardts do still have that Gravitic Flux Ant Matrix online, and Beerus making a swap over to the Pharah.
We saw him make a switch onto the 4 on Route 6, and he was building those barrages really quickly there. Here comes Application Matrix to try and poke a little bit of Danny Defeato, and their shields and tank resources down. Schmido's watching Beerus on that side. Here comes the Gravitic Flux. Sound Barrier respawned, but Beerus gets the kill on Burr.
Yeah, and he's already just building up towards that barrage. Slays comes through with the kill onto Schmido. And that's one DPS, one healer down. Nick goes down as well. They lose Curse, but they're still at a two-man advantage here on the side of Tryhardts. They're now chasing the members of Danny Defeato out the back door. They do have 99% on the board. Danny Defeato must find an answer here, unless they go down 3-2 here in this match. So far, they have not found a response. The tank line too strong on the side of Tryhardts here in this engagement. Slay's coming up with some big picks. They've got this thing flipped over. Teleporter is there. They do manage to get back in touch, keep the overtime wick burning, but one by one they fall into the mess of Tryhardts. Supercharger out on the side of Tryhardts as well, trying to counter back the Graviton Surge coming out of Danny Defeato as they look to desperately push back in here and save their attack. One fight to win it all, 97-99 on the board. Hammond there spinning to winning, but he does not. As he goes down, Tracer falls as well. Tryhardts will hang on and take Lijiang Tower in a 3-2 lead.
Yeah, 3-2 the series to Tryhardts now. Really surprising that they were able to take advantage on this control map. Danny Defeato looked really nice on control. Not only today in this series, but yesterday as well. They looked really good on control. But Tryhardts flipping it around using the Symmetra to their advantage to make sure they can take momentum in this series. They can win the next map. They will go home with the CCO Winter Showcase title. Time will tell.
We are headed into map 6 of our CCO Winter Showcase finals. This matchup between Tryhardts and Danny Defeato. And it has been an absolute back and forth slugfest. Sound like we have some substitutions coming through. Ocean, what do we got?
We have Ghost Slimy. We haven't seen him yet in the semifinals or playoffs. I don't believe we haven't seen Slimy come in for Defeato. Slimy is coming in for Nick. So no Big Max and no Nick for Defeato this time around. Tryhardts remain unchanged. They've stuck with the same lineup the entire series. Defeato switching up that DPS lineup once again. No other changes coming in for either team. I think we're just about ready to go here on Rialto. I know I said earlier in the series that I thought Rialto would be a good map for Tryhardts to try and brawl a little bit. But that first point could be a little bit difficult for them if Schmid gets a little bit of an advantage. The pressure of, being on match point will come to Tryhardts, or it's just riding momentum from Lijiang. They had a really, really strong Lijiang tower. They had a really, really strong Route 66. Can they ride the momentum, or will the pressure get to them? Let's find out. Burr's going to play them weird here. They're going to play Orisa Hog instead of that Rhine they've been playing most of the series on the side of Danny Defeato. And Schmido's going to play the Ashe, and Slimy's going to play Junkrat. Not a pick you see all too often here on Rialto because it's quite open, especially on this first point. So let's see what effect that Junkrat will have.
We did get a bit of a swap, so Danny Defeato in the blue jerseys here, starting us off on the defense. On the offense, Tryhardts bringing us the Orisa Sigma once again. Bears on the Pharah with Slays on the Ashe. But I think that Junkrat is going to struggle here, especially against this pharmacy composition. We'll see how it goes. Bears choosing the path around the top left side, trying to open things up, force a member of Danny Defeato back around this corner here. Danny Defeato just going to retreat all the way to courtyard, open up that space. Schmido looking to go meet Beerus in the skies here. So far, Beerus not phased by as he turns his attention down to the ground, finds the pick onto Ghost Slimy. Bird's going to go in there and try to get that res. Res does come off. They do get that res, and Major Nova coming up with a big pick. Going to find the kill onto the counterpart, but Slays answers right back. Schmido wins the air duel, though, and that could give Danny Defeato the edge they need here on the defense. Slays is held all the way back towards spawn, and I think we're going to get a bit of a reset here on the side of Tryhardts.
I'm really excited to see this dogfight continue between Schmido and Beerus. Both have been really comfortable on far this series. Beerus a little bit closer to that barrage than Schmido is, but at least Schmido did start on the Ashe.
Yeah, Schmido went back and made the swap once he saw the Pharah. And I believe Beerus has been focusing on the tanks a little bit more, trying to put some spam damage into that front line, while Schmido is purely focused on the air duel, as we can see here. Schmido trying to find those shots.
Oh, the whole hook on the Slays.
And then managed to take out a big chunk. The star damage performer on Tryhardts is down, and Schmido once again wins the air duel, taking Beerus out of the skies while his Mercy Pocket was down there trying to res Slays. Supercharger comes out on the side of the offense. It gets taken out, but Slays does return and get the revenge kill onto Schmido. We are back at a 5v5 here. Never mind, res coming through. Schmido back in disguise. Just as Beerus is making back into the battle with his barrage. He's going to drop the barrage down, find the kill on the Slimy. Johan goes down as well. With their main tank gone, this is going to be exceedingly difficult for Danny Defeato to hold. Good halt coming through. Puts Mercy right into the line of sight to Beerus, who finds that kill. Then finishes up with the kill onto Schmido. And Tryhardts trucking right along through courtyard here. Will Danny Defeato try to contest?
Yeah, Slimy's gonna go over across the hole so to maybe get a little bit more spam damage. And this little archery, very similar to that kick throw tray. He's gonna spam all the Slays. Slays goes down. Rats are actually coming pretty Lancelot though.
But it bought the time that Danny Defeato needed to get their members across that bridge. And the tanks managing to get in there to contest. We're going to get the Supercharger coming out on the side of Johan. But Ant Matrix on the side of Tryhardts. As they're looking to push in the final few meters needed to get point A captured here. A little bit of battle on the side. As Nova was trying to work around to the off angle on the flank on that hog. But gets forced out by the Sigma from the other side. Barrage comes out from Schmido. It manages to find the kill on Beerus, but he gets taken down by Mooselips. Major Nova counters back with a good kill onto the DPS. And despite the Supercharger coming out on the side of Tryhardts, one by one, their members are sent back to spawn. Big part of it thanks to the tank line here of Danny Defeato, as they have managed to hold on here on the back of point A.
The only ultimate Tryhardts are really gonna have is Gravitic Flux. Maybe Defeato will have 2 to 3, maybe 4 ultimates online for them in this last fight. It's really going to come down to Curse to see if he can do anything with that Gravitic Flux. Beerus might be able to build up to that barrage, but oh, there you go, there's a kill on Slimy.
Yeah, that's certainly going to help. Oh, and Slays follows up with a kill onto Schmido. Both DPS down. Oh, they did get the res onto Slimy, so it's still just a one-man advantage here on the side of Tryhardts. But Beerus dropping to the back line, dropping the barrage onto the supports. Can he find anything? He found Slimy before he get the shot off. Bird dropped Valk to escape it and does manage to get the kill. But now they are down both of their DPS. Ant Matrix comes out on the side of the defense. Whole Hog as well, but here comes that Gravitic Flux. The Gravitic Flux finds Nova while he's trying to Whole Hog. And the members of Danny Defeato are running low here. Ghost Slimy coming back on that. Hanzo throws Dragons over point just to try to stall things out, give his members, his team time to get back to this objective. But another Ant Matrix coming out on the side of Tryhardts, and Slays putting this one to great effect. Able to find 2 kills and working down to that flank angle. Oh, but he gets picked up. Schmido finds a kill, and Ghost Slimy finds the kill onto Slays. And an incredible stall coming out from Danny Defeato as the overtime wick is burning. Tryhardts back here on that Wrecking Ball, trying to hold on here. Lancelot Valks in on the Mercy, finds the kill onto the counterpart Mercy. So no more res here for Danny Defeato, but that Wrecking Ball does not last. The Tracer not able to touch, and Danny Defeato with a massive hold here, not giving up a single point on Rialto. Well, Tryhardts coming back on the defense, once again bringing us that Orisa Sigma. Beerus on the McCree, Slays on the Hanzo. So opting for some good long-range damage. Considering the map layout, it's not a bad pick, not a bad choice. On the side of Danny Defeato, they are bringing us the Orisa Hog once again. The first time in this series going away from the Reinhardt Zarya. We saw it serve them very well there on their defense. We'll see if they can answer back, send us to a map 7 here. Or if Tryhardts can... Go ahead.
I was saying, I was about to say Schmido was going toward the Bastion, but he's actually switched to the Forest. So I think Slays and Beerus are actually going to want his team to back up into Courtyard and give them as much space as possible to get onto that Forest and actually keep away from that Doom space. But Johan already solo, he actually goes down already. So it'll be interesting to see if Tryhardts just push up here and try and do something on bridge.
Well, it doesn't seem to phase Danny. They do get the res off onto the Orisa while Nova was pushing up, kind of holding the front line, holding Tryhardts at bay. We're back at a 6v6 here on point. No immortality field for Danny. And now Ghost Slime is going to go diving in on that Doomfist. He takes a good shot from Slays, I believe it was. And Beerus coming up with a big kill onto Johan. No more main tank standing for Danny. They're going to try to equalize this thing out. Slimy diving into the back line, but he just runs into nothing but the Cowboy. Beerus coming up with a big pick there. 2 men down. Danny Defeato struggling to hold on the objective. Tryhardts just starting to mow over and find those exit picks. And Tryhardts looks like they're going to hold on another day, survive to another engagement.
If we look at some opposite numbers here, we also just saw Mooselips get a poop kill onto Matrix Nova, but look at some ultimate numbers. Johan's on 45%, whereas Mooselips has his ultimate online. Ghost Slimy was on about 40% compared to Slays' Dragon Strike, so those maybe might have been the weaknesses in that first fight for Defeato.
Yeah, they're going to put these ults to great advantage on the side of the defense, throwing Dragon out first. And then Beerus picking up the shots, taken far out of the sky. Oh, and denying res. What a heads-up play coming from Curse to pick off that Mercy as she's trying to get res out. Supercharger there, and Beerus coming up with 2 big picks. Slays with a nice headshot of his own. Clean this thing up. Help Tryhardts stand tall here on point A, not giving up this corner at all, not budging an inch.
Almost 2 minutes gone for Defeato already. Only 2 ultimates used. for the set of Tryhardts to win that fight. They still have 4 available, maybe even 5 if Slice can build it up quickly. And Defeato might be in big trouble here. Burr going for the Valkyrie to try and engage strongly with the Gravitic Flux responding from Curse as well as the Application Matrix. And it looks like Tryhardts are just going to win this fight again.
Yeah, so far there's no answer out of Danny Defeato to match the aggression and sheer amount of damage coming out of Tryhardts. They've either got Valk, Supercharger, or Ant Matrix. One of them is always online. One of them seems to always be active as the engagement breaks out. And with that, Tryhardts coming up with early picks time and time again. And they still manage to hold on to both those DPS ultimates. They still have a Valk online as well. Good news for...
Swap to McCree.
Yeah. And now we've seen him swap over. I mean, Ghost Slimy started on the McCree, if I'm not mistaken. Danny Defeato trying to come back in. Good news for Danny Defeato fans, they do have a couple of ultimates, but Yohan goes down holding that Supercharger. That is not going to be helpful in their push. They do manage to pick off Beerus, and that's a big chunk of damage down. Majin over in that backline trying to use his whole hog, but was not able to find much with it. Just ends up overextending and dropping to the hands of Moose Lips. Now Slimy able to pick up 1 kill, but Slays answers back with a kill onto Burr, and that's their Moira gone. So a big chunk of healing missing, and that's going to force Danny Defeato to play a little bit more conservatively here. Well, at least in theory, but they're just going to go right at him and try to aggress around this corner. They force out that lamp. Lamp is now gone, done, and used. Now they're going to try to turn their attention onto the Orisa as she is running for dear life, throws down a shield, and just continues to back away. This is buying a little bit of space for Danny, but it's also buying time for Tryhardts to get back into this thing. Full strength, they're going to throw a Supercharger back on the yellow square and make their stand at the end of point A. Dragon's coming out from Ghost Slimy. It does manage to take out some equipment. Both Superchargers down and used. Danny Defeato trying to aggress around this corner here. There comes the Ant Matrix. Dragons with it. That's going to be a ton of damage. And Beerus coming up from the top.
With championship winning Deadeye from Beerus.
Wow.
5 kills. And Defeato can't get back. Tryhardts take this series 4-2 on map 6 Rialto. Wow, what a series we've just had.
Wow, I was blindsided by that awesome Deadeye. I can't wait to see this again. My eyes were on the front line as he sneaks up onto this balcony. He doesn't even use that Ant Matrix. And holy cow. The members of Danny Defeato just had too much to worry about. Dragons coming at him, Ant Matrix through the choke. And they did not see the flanking Deadeye coming out of Beerus. And with that, he puts the exclamation point on an absolutely stellar performance here today. Hayden his team in this 4-2 victory. Tryhardts, your CCO Winter Showcase champions here today.
Really interesting that we were talking about full hold on Rialto, and it seems very, very possible. But Rialto, I mean, full hold again. Imagine getting full health and you're in the finals, your match point, and you just go back and full hold. Ridiculous passion from Tryhardts to make sure that I win this championship, and I do win it 4-2. CCO Winner Showcase is done.
Danny Defeato handed their first loss of the entire tournament. A fantastic performance out of them that we saw throughout this entire series, throughout the entire playoffs. But Tryhardts remaining undefeated, coming in and taking the victory. And I've MVPs, I've got to give it to Beerus. Beerus absolutely showed up and was the difference maker. Whenever things just seemed dead, even deadlocked, he would tilt the balance. He would come through with the big picks, big 3K when his team had lost the opening pick. He'd come back with a big 3K and swing the favor back towards Tryhardts. Beerus is my man of the match right here tonight.
I'm going to go different to you. I'm actually going to go with Lancelot, I think, as my MVP. We saw, especially on King's Row, we saw a big play, even though they didn't win King's Row. Avoid CMP, gets the sound barrier off. We also saw them play a mix of heroes. We saw Mercy, we saw Lucio. I think just the flexibility of having those support line and making sure that support line's stable, I think Lancelot deserves it for that.
That's incredibly valid. You make good points, my friend. Well, on the back of that, I hope you all have enjoyed this amazing tournament. Thank you so much to Ren and the members of the CCO admin team for putting this on, for organizing this fantastic event. It has been an absolute pleasure to be a part of and being able to cast these matches here for you. Ocean, thank you so much for joining me for a lot of these key matches. Had the pleasure of casting several of these playoff matches, and man, what a lot of fun. What a lot of fun it's been. Big thanks to the viewers as well. Huge support, all the players. I know that's pretty much one and the same. But appreciate all the players and teams for participating in this tournament. Wouldn't be anything without you guys, without you gamers. So big thank you all around. I'm just speechless. I'm absolutely ecstatic. I'm going to go catch my breath after this fantastic match. Y'all remember to look out for each other in game and out. As always, we'll see you next time.